everybody. Welcome back to the Underwater Photography Show. As always, I'm Matthew Sullivan.
And I'm Alex Mustard.
And today we have another interview for you guys. Alex sat down and spoke with Erin Quigley of Go Ask Erin fame. And he was talking to her about her forthcoming, now released at the time of your seeing this, Backscatter Xterminator Photoshop plugin. I think I got all that. So Alex, if you want to talk a little bit about what that is, and then
I mean, I would introduce it by saying, for me, it's the most revolutionary bit of software related to processing underwater photos that I've experienced in my whole career, and I don't say that lightly. The most time-consuming aspect of processing underwater pictures is backscatter removal. Now, if you're a contest photographer, maybe you never remove a speck of backscatter. But if you sell your pictures, I can assure you the market doesn't want images full of backscatter. They want nice, clean images. And it takes a lot of time to spot those out of images. And it makes you very diligent as a photographer to try and always shoot pictures with the minimum amount of backscatter in them because it's so time consuming. What this plugin does, and I have to say almost to a point of miraculously, is in one click, it removes huge amounts of backscatter from pictures, almost all cases. And it does so while preserving amazing detail in what was behind that backscatter. It can deal with tiny specks of backscatter. It can deal with big blobs of backscatter all at the same time, while preserving fine details in the subject, like the whiskers of a seal, like sun rays coming down through the water, like, the textures, just the general texture of a photograph, the noise that creates the background. None of that is smoothed out or blurred out or turned to plastic. It looks incredibly realistic. And in my experience of testing it on images, and it's still a new piece of software, I've not tested it on thousands and thousands of images. It is incredibly miraculous. And it is a ridiculous time saver. I mean, for me, if I've got, a week and I'm just processing images as part of my work, it would literally save me probably 25 to 30% of my week's work in terms of processing time, because the backscatter removal is the time consuming bit. Now, does it work completely perfectly on every image? For me, it can't do. But does it work way, way better than you could ever expect on every image? Absolutely. Does it do most images perfectly first time? Absolutely. But I think what's clever about it is the way that they have it running as an action in Photoshop gives you tremendous control, so that if it does slightly miss the mark, you can correct things very, very quickly. And I really like it, and I think it's fantastic, and it's super exciting. So I was very happy to get Erin on to talk about it. I know you've had a go with it as well, Matt. I don't know if you want to say anything about your experience.
Yeah, so I'm not a backscatter remover generally, unless there's something egregious that just catches your eye. Like, I'm more annoyed by like the one particular speck in an otherwise clean image than I am about a whole bunch of backscatter. But I'm always down to give something new a shot. So I tried it on a few images. Some of them, what I would say about it first is that I don't think it's perfect, but like you said, I think it can save you a lot of time and get you a long way towards having a really clean picture. So like on some of the images I ran through it would clean up, a good chunk of the backscatter and then leave, random bits and bobs, which are easy to clean. So instead of spending, 10 minutes, you have to spend, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I did have a few instances on certain subjects where it would goof up the actual subject a little bit, and that could just, like you said, it's software, it's never going to be 100% perfect, so it could have just been that random particular subject. It didn't like something about the way it looked, so it decided to clean it up. But again, it's an easy fix. You just undo it and you can do something else. So I don't anticipate myself using this very much, but I think it's going to be hugely popular for the vast majority of underwater photographers, especially those who are like yourself are selling pictures, or those who just despise backscatter. I think it's going to be hugely popular, and it's pretty remarkable what Erin has figured out how to do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as Erin says in the interview, it's very much a team effort with her friend Bruce and also Russ, who's a software designer. So yeah, it's Erin is is the figurehead because she's the best known in our community. But she says throughout the interview she's very keen to say it's not all her.
So with that, I'd like to welcome Erin to the show.
I'm very excited to welcome Erin to the Underwater Photography Show to talk about what I can't really overstate is perhaps the most revolutionary bit of imaging processing software to do with underwater photography that I've ever seen. And that's Backscatter Xterminator. So, Erin, please tell us how this came about, what it does, and ideally show us something about it.
Oh my God. The thing about it is that since I've been shooting underwater, this has been like my dream is to find some technique, some magic potion that would get rid of backscatter easily, effectively, without leaving like a bunch of mess. And a friend of mine, Bruce Warner, who is not only an excellent underwater photographer, but he's also an astrophotographer, um, discovered like randomly this software that's used for astrophotography called Star Exterminator. And this kind of genius AI engineer, Russell Croman, developed it, and it revolutionized editing for astrophotography. And Russell is not an underwater photographer. He's not even a scuba diver. And so Bruce, initially, when he had reached out to him, kind of failed to get him to get really excited about it because he's an engineer, he's a perfectionist, he has this great software. We would have been happy if he just rebranded it, just called it something different, because it was that close, even way back then. Now it's like 20 million times better. But so Bruce called me and said, please reach out to him, we have to do this. And when I tried it, I was like, oh my God, no, we have to do this. So I sent Russell like 20 images, before and afters, and he said, oh, I see what you mean. Yes, this does do the same thing for underwater photography that Star Exterminator did for astrophotography.
Yeah,
And
and
so
I have to say thank you as well,
oh,
because
thank
the time this is going to save me in my life. I've often, joked, down the years, I'm not an underwater photographer, I'm a backscatter cleaner. That's what I seem to spend my time doing.
And
And yeah,
I use the phrase soul sucking, but I mean it very literally. There's nothing as draining as having a good image with shitty water. I mean, it's really draining to sit there and have to do the elbow grease. And even though, we've had workarounds, we've figured out workarounds over time, none of them are good. They're not perfect anyway, because they blur, or it's always a trade-off. There's always some kind of trade-off. And I feel like this really doesn't ask that trade of us as editors.
no,
It really does something that's above and beyond. It for me, it's like nothing short of magic. I really feel like it is just a holy shit moment every time I push that button, and I don't blink because it happens so fast.
yeah,
Also, that's the other thing. But anyway, I will
yeah.
share my
Show us some of the
screen.
magic.
Sharing is not turned on.
Oh yeah, sorry, I've got to make you host as always. Good
Okay.
old Zoom. One
Okay.
sec. I'm not super slow at this, but I'm not speedy. Right, you are now hosting, so you should be able to share.
Great. Yay, Backscatter Exterminator. And you'll notice that we're going with kind of a superhero vibe, because that really is how I feel about this. I feel like this is just otherworldly. So let's just take a look. I'm in Lightroom here, and this image, for instance, is this isn't a lot of the images that I use to demonstrate this on are old images that I used to teach how not to light something or how not to do something, because I would throw this away. But what I'm going to do is kind of show you first what it will look like afterwards, which is one click, pretty much one click. And then I'm going to just show you the process. So I'll open it up in Photoshop, and there we go. It's in Photoshop. Now, a really cool thing about this install of this software is that we've built in something called an action, a Photoshop action. And all that is a little piece of automation. So this is, when I click on this action, it's going to automate the building of 3 layers, running the filter, adding a layer mask, renaming all the layers, choosing the correct brush for you to start with, and picking the right color. So if you're new to Photoshop, this is going to be really easy for you, even if all you ever do in Photoshop is this one thing. All right. So if you look over here, the zoom interface so I can see it, I have this little actions tab, and this is just a list of these automated actions. And you'll see there's a folder called BSXT, that's shortcut for Backscatter Exterminator, because that's like a German word and it's really hard to pronounce. And then there's a level here that says BSXT action, click here. And so I'm going to click there. And what that does is it makes it possible for me to run the action. This little arrow gets activated. So I'm going to click on it, and, we'll see these little hamsters on a wheel going around. That's it. That's it. Okay, so it left 3 pieces of backscatter. There's before and there's after. I'm sorry. And if I zoom in,
it's when you zoom in, it's just amazing how everything is preserved.
I mean, so I'm going to zoom in. Look, that's the backscatter. That's afterwards. There's no blurring. There's no artifacting. And there's more backscatter than there is water in this image. And it's a super old image that I think shot on a D100 and really high ISO and, everything else. I mean, it just does a great job. Now, the thing about this is you do want to use it early in your workflow. You don't want to use this on, a JPEG that you've worked and worked and worked and worked. And then these little layers over here, I don't want to make this a tutorial, but I have a cleanup layer. And so I can just go here and grab, any of these cleanup tools. And, all of a sudden, that's the time I put in on it.
Yeah.
That's it. And then all I have to do is save it, and it goes back to Lightroom, and, Bob's your uncle.
Yeah. I think what I find incredible is just how well the natural, the texture of a photograph and the detail in the photograph is maintained. I think it's incredibly well judged, the level, in that it gets rid of everything, but anything it's not sure about, it leaves, which means
it leaves
you've got
it
2 or 3 blobs to clear up manually.
Yeah, it leaves that up to you. And Alex, I was telling you earlier that one of the things that I like about this is that this has just been trained on mostly my shitty images and some of Bruce's shitty images, but the Go Ask Erin team's shitty images. It doesn't go out into the wider world of other people's shitty images and infringe on their, dubious copyright desires for those images. It's a neural network that's contained in Photoshop as a plugin. This does not require the internet to run. So one of the things
very useful for those of us who go on boats.
Exactly. So one of the things that backscatter removal has always been bad at is maintaining light rays. And so I'm going to open this up, take a look at it here. And this will be good because it might remove some of the whale shark. Sometimes it finds, other spots that it thinks are backscatter. If you have something with the spots on it, it might remove them, but it's very easy to fix that. So again, I'm just going to run the action, 1 click. Monkey on a bicycle back there, doing whatever it's doing to get rid of the backs. Amazing. So if I turn this eyeball next to that layer on and off, it actually didn't remove any of the whale shark dots that I thought it would, which is great. And then I just come in here to, clean up. And again, I'm just going to, I have the wrong tool. Hold on. I'm just going to go in and get these little things. And you can see they don't exactly look like backscatter, these guys that are left. So I'm just going to clean all that up. And then I'm going to say, all right, this is the before and that's the after. And that was pretty damn fast.
Oh, it's
and
crazy.
I'll zoom in again. Oh shit, sorry. I filled everything with white. I didn't mean to do that. I'll zoom in again here so we can just take a look at what this does look like, because it's insane. It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's just perfect. I mean, this really, to me, I'm like a kid in a candy store, because this really is like fever dream come true kind of circumstance. I just, and not to give too much away, but the other products that Russell has at RC Astro which is really interesting if you're an astrophotographer to go there. But other products, they also have weird applications for underwater, maybe sometime in the future. Getting rid of glow, that kind of stuff. So, this really portends well, I think, for functional, practical, pragmatic AI. And I'm not going to fix any of these. Let's see. Maybe I will fix a couple more. Did I not do? Let me see.
I find Backscatter Exterminator so, it's so quick to use and easy to use that even if I have an image that has only a small amount of backscatter in, you just click run on it because it's quicker than spotting it out, and because it maintains the details so well of what was behind the backscatter.
I mean, I'm just going to open this up and run it now. Done. Save. That's it. Go back. You go back. Go to the. Oh, sorry, I'm opening the wrong thing. Even though it's morning where you are, Alex, it's night where I am. And I just had a lovely dinner with a glass of wine, so I'm tapping all the wrong buttons here. But it's like this. Go away. This image, in 1 second.
Yeah.
And it takes some of the spots off the fish, but I think it does a good thing.
Yeah, no, and if you didn't want them going away, you've got that super easy to use layer mask just to be able to clean it back. Oh, look at that.
I mean, one click.
Yeah, I think what amazes me is how well it deals with different size pieces of backscatter as well. It's not just about removing the fine specks; it removes the blotches, even out of focus blotches.
Yeah, I mean, this is impossible.
Yeah.
Impossible.
I've deleted too many images I shouldn't have done in the past.
Well, everybody's going to say that. I'm going to have to rethink my killing your darlings teaching method. But I mean, look, even between the little areas of this soft coral, this is just impossible to remove the backscatter. You just can't do it. Gone. I'm so excited to get it out there. I'm really thrilled. And if you have an image like this is a shitty image, and I would recognize that the composition is terrible and the lighting is terrible. Everything's terrible about it. And the backscatter removal isn't going to save it as an image, but I'm just going to show you how crazy this is. It does, when it gets this cloudy, it does take a little longer, but look at that.
It's crazy. I mean,
it's crazy. Holy shit. He was right. We should have called it holy shit.
It's certainly going to be said a lot when people are using it. So yeah, it's incredible. So how are people able to get their hands on this then?
So this, I think by the time that this hits the airwaves, this will be live. Backscatter Xterminator will be available, and you just go to the Go Ask Erin website. I'm always kind of afraid to open Safari I'm live on this, but there we go. And I'm not actually sure that Backscatter Xterminator exists because we're rebuilding it. But you just go to no, that's not it. You just go to goaskerin.com.
Sure.
And on the homepage, you will see a big banner that says Backscatter Xterminator, and you just follow the prompts there. You'll wind up having to kind of do the usual email verification for a registration number at RC Astro, but it's been managed very elegantly. Joel Penner, web guru, has made the handshake really well. He and Russell worked hard on making it as easy as possible for people to get, without too many complications. So the other thing about this is there is a 30-minute long tutorial that I really encourage everybody to watch. It will lead you step by step through how to install this, the action, how it works, where you do it, all the little potential stumbling blocks that I think people might have are addressed in the tutorial, and that's included with the product. And the filter itself, Backscatter Xterminator, you get one license, but you get 2 installs, so you can put it on 2 computers.
Yeah, which is great. A lot of people have a home and a travel computer, so
yeah. And then if you want to put it on a different computer, you just disable it on one, and, you know, as long as you only have two active at the same time. It's very much like Adobe in
Yeah,
that way.
I mean, I have to say it is ridiculously easy to use. It is really worth watching that tutorial just because I think it helps you just understand every step and how to get the most out of it. But once you've watched that tutorial, you're literally one click and occasionally the odd bit of brushing, to remove a couple of bits that it's decided it couldn't decide if they were backscatter or not. And that's you done, really.
I mean, that's it. That's all I can say about it, because it's not complicated. It's really, as you've been saying, Alex, it's really easy to use, and it's pulling a rabbit out of a hat. It's just magic.
And it's a one-off fee as well, isn't it? It's no subscription.
It's not a subscription. It's going to be, I think our intro fee is like $179.95 or something, and it will go up. I just don't know when it will go up. We might leave it that way. We're definitely going to leave it that way through DEMA, which ends on the 23rd. We'll probably leave it through Black Friday. I'm not exactly sure. That's not all it's not all my call.
Sure.
But that's what I think.
No,
And
I mean,
I have to say, I think it's a bargain.
yeah,
I really
do as well. And I'm not saying that because you're my friend and you're here. The time this will save me, it's worth a huge amount more than that.
If you added up your per hour fee, I'm just saying, it will. I mean, it's nuts. Yeah. And I think that, I don't think that it's going to make people lazy underwater shooting. I really don't. I think that it's, you don't want to get a picture full of backscatter for a lot of other reasons. Yeah. That don't have to do with, oh, now there's software that takes it out. No, you get a much better image if you don't have backscatter in it, or extreme backscatter to begin with. I don't think it's going to make people lazy underwater, but I do think it's going to make people wish they hadn't thrown away a bunch of shit.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And it's just amazing how smart it is in terms of being able to pick backscatter from things that previous, filters out there just haven't been able to distinguish, like the sun rays, like whiskers, like scale patterns, like the background noise in the picture.
There's all kinds of stuff that it's able to discriminate between. And it's only going to get smarter. We continue to look for ways to improve it. I think it's really, really slick right now. And it's, maybe at some point there is, Alex, a slider that gets added instead of the opacity slider on that level, so that you can eliminate the backscatter and then dial it down, or you can choose to have only a 60% impact on the image, or whatever it is. But right now, I'm happy that you can run this and then you can use the layer that it affected and just change the opacity of it and bring back in a little bit of backscatter if you want to. I mean,
yeah. I was joking that for the competition photographers that aren't allowed to remove backscatter, they'll run it and then just back it off to a level that no one could tell that they've run it, because the raw file still matches, but the backscatter now is almost invisible. So
anyway, I'm super excited about it, and I do think it's revolutionary. I do think it just.
I agree as well. It will change the processing of our pictures for from now on.
Yeah, and it changes the workflow a little bit too in post. I mean, I in general didn't do backscatter removal early in the process. I would kind of wait till the end to do it, because if I did change my mind about some other piece of the edit, I didn't want to have to go back and redo backscatter removal if it had changed.
Yeah.
But now I'm going to do this early in the process. So my, I'm thinking that let's say you're in Lightroom, you would do tonal changes first. So light and dark, you'd get it in the ballpark. If you have a white balance, global change, white balance, color shift, you would do that. If your image is really noisy for whatever reason, maybe you had an extreme white balance, or you brought the tone up from very dark to in the middle, or if you shot at high ISO, any of those three things would kind of make it good for you to run denoise. And denoise only works on a raw image. And denoise doesn't get in the way of Backscatter Xterminator. So I do all those things first in Lightroom, and then use that new DNG, if you've run denoise, if not just your regular raw file, to go to Photoshop and use that as a new starting off point. And then get rid of the backscatter. And now this is where the workflow has changed a little bit. You have to decide whether, if you're fluent in Photoshop, you're going to stay in Photoshop, maybe use a smart object and a camera raw layer to use the masking in that, or Photoshop ordinary masking tools, or you can just save it and go back to Lightroom and work on it again. It's just going to be a TIFF or a Photoshop when it gets back to Lightroom, but that will be up to, that's going to be really a comfort level call. Like if you're more comfortable in Lightroom, you're going to want to go back to Lightroom. If you're more comfortable in Photoshop, you're going to want to stay in Photoshop just because. So it will change the workflow somewhat, but the results are so good. Who cares?
Yeah, I'm really excited to see people reacting, because you can't use it for the first time and not issue an expletive, which I think is quite appropriate since it's come from the Go Ask Erin team.
People, they look at me like I'm trying to trick them into something. They think I've rigged some kind of trick on my computer that I'm showing them. No, it's not. Alex will swear, even if you don't trust me, I know you trust him, but it's amazing.
Yeah.
So there are some system requirements that you have to have, and those are listed, before you get the product. It really is pretty liberal. I mean, it goes back 5, 6, 7 years to OSs, so it's fine. If you're running a PC, the processing is a little different. The GPU is a little bit different on it, might run a tad bit smaller. And also, when you install the software, there's a choice to also install this kind of, I'm sure I'm using the wrong phrase, kind of a GPU accelerator that's specific to this filter, specific to Backscatter Xterminator.
Okay, well, that is absolutely fantastic. I know that you've also got a really good tutorial and detailed tutorial on it on the Go Ask Erin website as well. So as well, in addition to the one that people are getting when they buy it.
I'm not sure that's true. I think that it's only attached to the product. For some reason, I think it was actually a technical problem that we couldn't have it like an on-demand. You know what? We have a portal that's specifically for Backscatter Xterminator, and the tutorial lives there. We will at some point put one up on YouTube.
Okay.
But for now, it's kind of value added for people that buy the software.
Yeah. No, that's well. And any underwater photographer who's watching this, unless you're not allowed to remove backscatter for some reason because of what you do with your images, you want to buy this software, so everyone's going to be a customer.
I think so. Yeah, I hope so. It's really amazing. I mean, I would have killed for this, when I was a beginning photographer, killed, exterminated. But now it's just this tool that's exterminating the backscatter. So we love it. I love it. It's so great. I'm so excited for all of you guys to try it, because I know the needle's going to go right in the vein, baby. You try it.
Well, thank you so much for coming on to telling us about it. And thank you so much for bringing this product, because I, for one, am delighted that it's out there.
Yeah, and really the person that we owe thanks to is Russell Croman of RC Astro, who developed the original astrophotography software, and my friend Bruce Warner, who was smart enough to put those two things together. Yeah. So, I've worked in the entertainment industry for a long time, and if Backscatter Xterminator would be a movie, I would be the producer, Russ would be the writer, and Bruce would be the leading man. We all play our own roles in making this happen and making it, something that we can now put out for all of you guys to enjoy and improve your images with.
I feel after that speech, I should be handing you a trophy. Well, thanks very much, Erin, and I hope to see you soon.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. I've just finished that interview with Erin, and one of the things she said in that is, it's so remarkable, the software, that people often, believe there's some additional trickery going on, or that she knows exactly what photos to pick for the demonstrations. And so I thought I'd just follow on by running the software on 3 of my pictures. And they're not good pictures. They're not pictures you'll have seen before because they were previously in the never to be processed folder. But nonetheless, I thought it was worth to run this software. I'm just going to run the software quickly and show you, a bit of the before and after. This first shot is a grey seal taken in the UK. And I thought this was an interesting one to run it on because it's got sunbeams, although there's not a lot of backscatter over the sunbeams. It's got whiskers, which I think, certainly a lot of backscatter filters struggle with. And then it's got a lot of backscatter in the lower part of the frame in front of this kelp forest. And so to see how well it preserves that detail. So I'm just going to click run and run the software. So it's just running the software now, I think. And I didn't click it properly. There we go. Now it's running the software. So it just spins around, has a think. It's a little bit slower on my computer. These are all big files. They're all either D850 or A1 files. So it's run the software, and the best way to see how it's done is to do the befores and after with this. So first of all, whiskers wise, you can see that around the whiskers there's a little bit of areas where the backscatter is still there, and I'd always rather that there was a few bits for me to clean up than it wiped out something I really wanted to keep. But before you see this backscatter through everything, even through the eyes of the seal, I think one of the whiskers up the top there is just gone, but most of the whiskers are fine. So what I would do in this situation is I would click on the mask, click on my brush, make my brush the right size, and I can brush back in anything that I feel that has been lost in terms of detail. But you just do the before and after to see what's lost. And if you see something important like the tip of this whisker, then I can just use the brush and bring that back in. It will bring in any backscatter around that area, but then I've just got tiny areas to deal with afterwards. The bit of this though that I think is really interesting to see is down in the kelp forest, which to be honest beforehand was just a mess, unusable. And like this, that the kelp forest is now coming through and it's a nice clean image. And I don't think it was too challenging on the beams on this one, but if we do whiz up to the top, I'm at 200% now, so just come out a little bit, you can see the beams of the sunburst are really well preserved and coming through. Next image is another trash image. I always like this composition of the kelp leaf and the malebis on it. The malebis are obviously white, so like the whiskers, they look a bit like backscatter, and they've got fine detail on them, both in terms of these, I guess they're gill structures on their backs, and also on the oral tentacles around their hoods. So quite troublesome. And if we look across at the edge of the frame, it's a mess of pretty ugly backscatter. And, the kelp is just disappeared but beneath it. So once again, I'll run the software, and it's just going to whir for a second, have a think, and I'll just zoom us back out again. Oh, taking a touch longer on this file than the previous one. I think it might be a slightly bigger file. And you can see it's cleaned everything up straight away. Let's have a look at some of those details first of all. So that's zoomed in to 100%, and you can see all the Malibu details, the oral hoods and all those fine structures are there. That's before with backscatter, just a fog over everything, and then a lovely clean image. And if we come to the edge of the frame here where the kelp was pretty much, you can see it's just a fog of mid-water particles, and it's just gone, clean as a whistle. Now, one thing, you might say, oh, that's too much cleaning. Well, that's the great thing about this being in a layer, is we just go up here on the right-hand side to the opacity slider, and we can back it off. We can say, I don't want it to be backscatter like that, but I don't want it to be super clean like that. I want it kind of, I want a feeling of backscatter so the picture feels still like reasonably natural, that it hasn't been too over-processed, but at the same time, the backscatter is no longer a distraction. And all of that is fractions of a second to do. And then the final one I thought is one with an eagle ray in, but it's got a very different type of backscatter in this. This was taken on a very currenty dive in Galapagos, and you can see even the eagle ray was trying to hide from the current. And my bubbles were being blown all around me when I was taking pictures. So the backscatter in this picture, which you can see, it's not backscatter through most of the frame. You can see on this side it's nice and clean, but on this side my bubbles were blurring in front of the camera. So it's just a mess. But it's just to see how it deals with something like this. So I'm going to run it again. and it's just going to whir for a second. It's another big file, but it should in a sec pop up, and we'll see the result. Not the most exciting video, watching the spinning wheel trying to figure itself out. There we go. And look at that, it's dealt with all those really, so it's not just the filter, it's kept the bubbles of the diver. Obviously I would probably be cropping this diver out of this picture, but it's just for demonstration. You can see the eye detail of the goatfish in the background, but what's gone is that. I mean, I just think that's amazing that it's got rid of that. This one, it's got an eagle ray in it, and eagle rays have got spots on them that do look very much like backscatter. And actually what you'll see here is actually the software has taken out the eagle ray bubbles, the eagle ray spots as well. So again, that will be a job to use the mask. So simply just click into this layer, grab your brush, and you can just whiz these back in again. You need to do a little bit of what have I lost, what do I need to put back in again. So there's a couple of markings on the eagle ray around here I think I want to bring back in, but that's all done. So very, very quick, and just amazing that it can deal with not just tiny specks, not just a fog of backscatter, not just big particles and small particles, but it just deals so well with everything, and so speedily.